Hey folks, Tom Norfleet with www.citizenshipquickly.com. This is the second part series on offshore banks and prenuptial agreements. Wanted to talk to you today on when someone tries to sue you and the ownership of the assets that you used to own are now owned by a Belize trust, for instance, and these assets are in an offshore bank or brokerage company in either Switzerland or Singapore. It's virtually impossible for a creditor to get those assets. For a creditor to sue for those assets, they would have to file a suit in Belize courts because that's where the Belize entity or owner is located. Belize will not accept foreign judgments outside Belize, and since there is a zero statute of limitation period to even file the lawsuit in a Belize court, no filings will be accepted in the courts of Belize either. Belize does have money laundering laws, so we're talking about protecting money that you've made legally and not illegally. Offshore banks also offer you more options to invest in other currencies like the euro, British pound, Hong Kong dollar, Singapore dollar, Canadian dollar, Australian dollar, and many other currencies that can go way up or stabilize when the dollar crashes, thereby diversifying your money better. Maximum diversification begins by investing in what I call the 3 C's. Invest in different countries, currencies, and companies to get the maximum diversification on your money. Singapore has rock-solid banks and some of the highest reserve requirements in the world. In Singapore, for the DBS, OCBC, and UOB banking groups, the LCR requirement commenced on the 1st of January 2015, aligned with the Basel timeline. The big 3 banking groups have been required to meet the Singapore dollar LCR at 100%, all-time and all-currency LCR at 60% by January the 1st, 2015, rising by 10% each year to reach 100% by January the 1st, 2019. My suggestion would be to set up a foreign bank account and get at least some of your money outside the US dollar. There's so many banks that are far safer than US banks. The USA is technically a broke nation with a current debt of 22 trillion US dollars, which can never be paid off. Governments, especially the USA government, have been known to seize money and then ask questions later. And this is why you need to set up a foreign offshore bank account. Most of the assets should always be outside the country where you are residing and working for asset protection purposes. CD rates with some banks offshore pay 10% or much higher, and if these currencies are bought with a CD, at the time that you get the movement of the currency on top of the interest against the US dollar, your money can see a good appreciation. As far as it goes, it is a lot more economical to go with an offshore discount broker than an offshore bank to invest in equities, currencies, and other investments. A lot of foreign banks charge safe custody fees that can be 12 basis points or higher. That's 0.12 of 1%. And this is on total assets in the account minus any cash. Typically, this is on equities, not cash. These are fees just to hold your funds there, and then you have fees to buy and sell the securities, and some charge to automatically reinvest the dividends. And then you have expense currency exchange fee markups and commissions on each currency exchange transaction. When you retain, our company will direct you to the safest banks and discount brokerage with the lowest fees and how to avoid most of these charges. High fees can cost you thousands or tens of thousands of US dollars over a period of years, and we'll show you how to get around these high fees. We make nothing off what or where you invest in equities through the banks and discount brokerage. We work with everyone differently depending on what your goals are and what you want to do offshore. Belize Offshore Corporation as a holding company for investments for asset protection purposes might be good for one person, but not be good if you're going to be setting up a business. For business purposes, you'd be better off setting up a St. Kitts company or a Hong Kong company, depending on a lot of different circumstances. We'll help you decide which way is the best way to go, depending on your actual goals and your business and what you're doing. The U.S. government passed a law called FATCA, the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. The Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act is came out in 2010, and it's a federal law that the U.S. came out with requiring all U.S. foreign financial institutions to search their records for customers with indicia U.S. person status, being indications in records of a U.S. place or birth, prior residency or similar, and to report the assets and identities of such persons to the U.S. Department of Treasury. FATCA also requires such persons to self-report their non-U.S. financial assets annually to the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, on Form 8938, which is in addition to the older and further redundant requirement to self-report them annually to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, which is FINCEN, on Form 114, also known as the FBAR. Like U.S. income tax, FATCA applies to U.S. residents and also to U.S. citizens and green card holders residing in other countries. All banks have to comply with FATCA to deal in the U.S. dollar and to deal with U.S. citizens. 20 to 30 years ago, most offshore banks would take U.S. citizens, but that number is reduced by at least 50 to 75%, and most offshore discount brokers will not deal with U.S. citizens anymore. Once you get an account set up, I've never seen them, require you to close the account, if the rules change with the bank. If you're thinking about doing this, I wouldn't put it off any longer. If you're a U.S. citizen or green card holder and you want to get around all these filing problems, you need to relinquish your U.S. citizenship or give up your green card if you're a permanent resident. You can set up an offshore bank account yourself, yes, but you won't know what really is the best for what you're trying to accomplish or the location to do it in, and we can show you the ones with the lowest fees where the privacy is a lot better. Just the fees alone that will save you will easily pay for our fees that you're paying us. Our goal is to help you save more by cutting your taxes to the brim and making you more money. When you retain our company, we'll show you how to save on these areas. The key, folks, is if you're thinking about doing this, do it through somebody. If it's not through our company, pick somebody that's going to help you get your taxes to zero. You can do it. Whatever anybody tells you, you can't lower your taxes to zero, they're wrong. You can do it, but you need help to do it right. If you got a question or comment, put it below. And also, if you want further videos, hit the subscribe button to your right of your screen, and you'll get all future videos as they come out. Look forward to talking to you on our next video. Take care. Bye.